I mean, Children of Men. You and I discussed this when the movie was shown at a BAFTA screening. It was a very powerful and effective film. For those in the audience who haven't seen it, essentially about a world where human beings have lost the knack of reproducing, it seems. And I'm fascinated to know what it was that made you want to make that movie so much.
Well, I never saw the film as a science fiction film. I was more interested about the present. When I wrote the screenplay, it was right after September 11. And I was very intrigued about where the world was going. And I wanted to understand what was happening. So I started doing a lot of research. I read a lot of books of people that really know about those issues. And I tried to understand what was shaping, this 21st century. And this was, like for me, the whole thing of infertility was more of a metaphor, in the sense of that as a species we're supposed to be, and the rest of the species, what they care about is the next generation. And it seems that humanity took a strange turn at some point in which is this hedonistic thing in which is only about our generation. We don't really see ahead and set up the world for the benefit of the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was the point of departure. And we didn't want to do, even if we have to use the convention of the future because of the setup, we tried that every single thing that you see in the film was a reference of the present.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you see around was reference of photojournalism or newsreels, but stuff that was going on in the frame of the last 10 years around the period that we made it.
Mm. It was a very powerful and memorable film. My understanding is that it still wasn't easy for you to put the finance together for the next film. That you had an independent film that you were trying to get made and didn't happen before Gravity. Is that right? Yeah,
right after that, what happens with Children of Men, I did instead of I get bored with making offs, in the DVD, just because they're always the same. And I offered the studio that instead of doing a making of, I would prefer to put together one little documentary. So I want to do a documentary about the people I based that research. So I did a little documentary about interviews with several like very smart people. And one of those people was Naomi Klein. So later on, Naomi called me to see if I wanted to collaborate. She had written a new book called The Shock Doctrine. And she asked me if I wanted to collaborate with her doing something, and we did another little documentary for The Shock Doctrine. But because I was busy, I said I need someone to help me. I cannot do it on my own. Jonas has just finished his first film that premiered in Venice. And he was around and says, do you want to give me a hand with this thing? So we co-directed that Shock Doctrine thing and co-wrote it, and it really worked out very well. So we started writing a new screenplay together. That was a road trip that took place between the south of France to the north of Scotland. We had locations. We had Daniel O'Toole and Charlotte Gainsbourg. And then there was the financial crisis in 2008, and the film collapsed. And
which must have been very frustrating.
It was, and I remember the day that it collapsed. Jonas and I, that we were doing rewrites. We started trying to figure out rewrites to do it more studio happy, if you might.
Mm.
And we realized that it was like betraying the whole concept. And it's when we said, okay, let's write something that we can, in the reality of this market, that we can put together. So meaning something that we can do in which we can engage stars and we can get studio finance.
Now, I understand that. So that's the genesis of Gravity.
That's the genesis. One more time, running out of money.
Well, I was going to say, this is the quote that I've read that you, what you said about it was that only one actor in space, it can't get any simpler, we can do it in a couple of months. Did you seriously say
well,
that?
That's what I told Chivo. I say in the screenplay, and I said that. And I thing is this, when you're writing, you don't have a director around. You know, you don't have a producer around. It's bliss, you know? And so you don't think of how you're going to do it. You just imagine things. And I was still in my writing mode when I sent the screenplay to Chivo and said, okay, this is going to be so easy.
4.5 years later. It was 4.5 years.
4.5 years, yeah.
What was the chief, from your point of view, what was the chief hurdle to overcome to be able to make it into a film as opposed to a script?
Gravity.
Yeah.
It's like, it is there, man. There's nothing you can do about it. It's like, it's gravity. You would take it for granted, man, but it's...
Once you get rid of it, it's very hard. It's hard to get rid of.
No, it's very hard to get rid of it.
So, was there a single moment where you and your collaborators said, "Okay, we've got this major problem. This is how we can get around it"? Was there a light bulb moment?
When we saw the film completed.
Oh. No, I wanted to know how you got there.
Well, the thing is that, but the thing is, you have to understand that everything. And in a way, it was the whole film was a big miscalculation. You know, I thought it was going to be something simple. It was not. The studio, I don't know what were they thinking about just financing this, because okay, this is an interesting fact, and I don't know how aware they are of this. This film, to this date, has not been greenlit. Okay. It doesn't have an official green light. Okay. Because the whole film became a process. You know, it was this thing of okay, we're going to start developing technology. So the studio says, okay, we invest in that. And you start investing in that. Okay, we need to do previs. Okay, let's start investing in doing previs. And all the time, I'm anxious. Producer, director says, can we give a green light? No. Let's see how this goes, and let's go to the next stage. And we kept on going like that
for 4.5 years.
For 4.5 years. So I guess that at some point someone says, okay, what the heck? Just like
you spent the money. Presumably, the cooperation of Sandra Bullock and George Clooney was pretty crucial in. I mean, the patience on all sides, I imagine, was required quite a lot to get through this.
Well, yeah. From one standpoint was the collaboration between Chivo Lubezki and Tim Weber of Frame Store, the visual effects supervisor, in which we create. And what I was saying before is that everything was theoretical. We started shooting based upon theoretical assumptions that the things were going to work. We shot that theory, and actually after we finished shooting, it took another 8 months to start seeing things that may work or not work. So everything was kind of very theoretical. And another amazing involvement was Sandra and George. What I always say is that the film was, from the sense of writing, it was already composed in terms in harmonies, but it was Sandra and George who came to bring the melody, and the collaboration with them is what really created the melodic aspect of the film.